Howdy folks, and welcome back to What Is It Wednesday? What time is it? That's the question we're asking today, right here on What Is It Wednesday. Hey, welcome back folks to What Is It Wednesday. We're glad you could join us this morning. Last week we brought you this little jewel of an item, and we asked the question, what is it? Well, if you guessed hide stretcher, you're exactly right. And how did that work exactly? So, whenever I was in high school, coons were at a high demand. We could go out and kill a couple coons, and if you had a good one, you could get $30 to $35. $30 to $35 if you killed a couple of them in a night. Goodness, all of a sudden, you could have upwards of $100 in your pocket for just going out and grabbing a couple coons. Now, it wasn't quite that simple. I mean, those of us that did it, we know that, the coon had to be right, and you had to be good at skinning it, and there was lots of factors that played into whether or not you got top dollar for those coons. But back in those days, you had fur buyers that came to your local town on a specific day, and if you were somebody who did some trapping or coon hunting, we did both. We did a little trapping, and we also had some dogs that we ran. It was a lot of fun back in those days, but they would show up and they would buy your hides. They graded the hides right there and would offer you a price. You didn't have to take it, but wasn't a lot of options. Nowadays, there's not any fur buyers that I know of that even show up in any of the local towns. When you get up in the Midwest and some of the river valleys, there's still some coon hunting and fur trading that goes on up there, but not so much down here where we live anymore. So how did this work? So you would take that coon after you skin him out, and you would stretch his hide skin side out after you fleshed him. Fleshing means you're getting all of the meat off of the outside of the hide. You're getting as much off of that hide as you can to get it dried. And you would stretch him over the top of this device right here. His head and his nose would be up here, and then these nails down here at the bottom would be, if you can see that, these nails down here at the bottom would be what you would grab a hold of his legs or tail or whatever, and you would stretch him, and then you just let him dry. That was better than using salt sometimes because it did a better job of preserving the fur. Now, we never stretched and dried our furs. Whenever we hauled ours to the fur buyer, they had been frozen, and we took them up there as is, and that was the fur buyer's responsibility, or whoever he was selling them to get those things stretched, dried, and ready for market. But that's what it is, guys. There's no hide stretcher right there. Sometimes you'll see them as solid boards. Now the newer ones are wire or metal with some latches down at the end that you can pull that hide tight. This one was a customized job that somebody did themselves, and I'm sure it worked quite well. What time is it? When are we going to be there? How much further? You ever taken a summer vacation with the kiddos? Hey, we've all fielded those questions, right? And they don't get asked as much as what they used to, because most kids, even small kids, have cell phones in their hands now with a GPS app that'll answer that question for them. But man, there was a time whenever I was a small guy when we were excited to get somewhere and excited to be on vacation, where we were bugging mom and dad with those questions. Well, that brings us to our What Is It Wednesday this week. It's a timepiece, a pretty unique timepiece. So really, the question's not so much what is it, it's a clock. We can see that. It's a nice timepiece. I'm going to give you a hint. It's not a pocket watch, made by the same company that made a lot of pocket watches. This is a Waltham 8-day clock. But specifically, what was it used for? What was this timepiece's application? That's the question we've got for you. They weren't super rare, but they weren't super common. Not everybody had one of these using it in its correct application. This is probably a $50 or $60 deal right here. It's not complete. It doesn't work, but historically it's a pretty neat deal. It reminds us of how things used to be. There were lots of luxuries that weren't around years ago, and this was one of them whenever you were using it. So that's the question, not what is it, but what is the application? If you know, post it down in the comments. Subscribe for sure. And we're going to look forward to seeing you back here next Wednesday for another What Is It Wednesday question. And don't forget about us on Friday. Folks, we're back this Friday with another Fun Fact Friday, and we've got a pretty good one lined up for you. So thanks for joining us. We hope you have a great week. and take a look at it again. What is it? And what time is it? Thanks again.